Oh, too late.
Hello!
Hello, everyone. We were planning on something very special to introduce the new person with us, but we actually failed on the timing. So, hi, everyone. I'm not Queen one of your community managers. You guys know this guy.
McLean, gameplay programmer, design guy, memer.
And then we have a new face with us today. Who are you?
I'm Deja Vu's dad. Hi. I'm Jeff. I'm a dev tester on Dead by Daylight.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Jeff. I'll go over the mods. Thank you to mods for being here. So we have Metal D, Peanuts, PS Fix, Shiroku, Suggestive, Vorfitis, and also Clyde. Some CMs mixed in there. Thank you, François and Bjorn, for helping us out with the setup. Welcome, everyone. So, again, we're going to go back to Jeff. Orvat's not here. He's on vacation. Lucky dude.
Lucky dude.
Indeed.
And so Jeff is nice enough to show up and come and talk to us about what is a QA dev tester.
Yeah.
I'm no longer anonymous. I failed. Well, to put it simply, QA testers usually test the game on a very baseline kind of way. So they'll make sure that things work properly, and they usually have like these checklists that they have to do. And a dev tester has like the advantage or the opportunity to work more closely with the devs, and they usually have more technical knowledge, either for tools or the game itself or just in general. And an example I could give for that is that recently we, on the PTB actually, we reworked the hook density for all the maps. Matt Walker, our level designer, did that. And I've been working with him closely to try to find a sweet spot for, well, especially with the Sabotage, where you don't have too many hooks, where you have two survivors facing each other, sipping tea together and shit. But you don't also have these zones where you sabo one hook and then you can just stay in that corner and stay slugged forever and the killer can't hook you.
So basically you're working closely with designers. So
yes.
that's super cool.
With McLean as well.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us. Today,
you.
Basically, we were supposed to have a video, so a Q&A video. Instead, we're doing a live stream because some stuff didn't work for the video. But we're here.
Hi. Hi.
So this is a prepared Q&A about specifically about questions on the PTB. So this is what we're going to talk about today. Let's start with the hot topics, guys.
Hot topics.
What about Decisive Strike? Why was it not on the PTB? So I think we can still see some images.
I think we've got something for this.
We do.
Oh, I think we had another one.
Yeah.
I think it was the first one.
The first one. Yes.
Oh yeah, that's the one. This is, yes.
Okay, there
See,
we go.
that explains everything.
Okay, so Decisive Strike. All right, so what almost happened?
Okay, yeah.
What did happen
Now we can talk about it.
on Decisive Strike here?
So, okay, that's enough Claudette. That's enough. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have...
Yeah, we can have the second. We're all ready, guys.
Okay.
All prepared.
This is perfect. This is fine. Okay, so Decisive Strike. This is something that we at one point went as far as to promise would be in this patch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We did.
We did. I think I sat right here and promised that Decisive Strike would be in the mid-chapter patch.
And then I repeated it on forums, and we answered questions about it, and we were like, yes, we are confident this is going to come in the mid-chapter patch. So what happened?
Well, we put this into practice. We had the design in, we had most of the functionality in, we started playing with it, and it ran into problems. So there were problems not only with the design, but also with the implementation of the perk in this form. So the problems that we ran into were that the perk in this form was still not terribly accessible, which is that it doesn't fix the problem that, okay, you need to hit a great skill check to do it, which is okay if the reward is very great. But this is a version of Decisive Strike with a weaker reward. In fact, that was one of the problems. The perk feels unrewarding when used successfully. Usually you have to hit your hard skill check, and then you get a very exciting moment when you fly off the shoulder. You no longer have that. The perk had another problem in which it required a lot of organized teamwork to make the most of it. We get a lot of complaints about the difference in feeling when you're facing a organized, say, Survive with Friends group compared to regular players. And this seemed like a perk that would really be targeted for the group players.
We can see McLean explaining all this. Now, I think the thank you.
Now you can see me reading
Yes.
my notes.
Yes, then we can see.
We also ran into problems with animation for this new version of the perk. It didn't seem like a lot at first to say that you wouldn't drop the survivor, but in fact it required whole new sets of animation for essentially every single killer. Now we often do things that require new animation for every killer, but not necessarily for a single perk. And so after figuring that we weren't as hot about this design as we originally felt, and seeing how much work it would take to complete the perk in this state, we decided we're not going to go forward with this version.
So we tested this version, though.
We did.
Okay. And it was not reaching what we wanted for a result.
That's right.
So thank you for. Hopefully, we're going to get a little bit more detail on this on forums soon.
Yeah, as soon as we have more details to share about what's happening with this perk, we'll share them. It is still like our #1 priority in terms of perk changes. So something is coming with Decisive Strike. It's going to come as soon as we can get it. And I'm really bummed out that we couldn't get it in time for this patch.
It's still on the top of the reworks,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Awesome. Second hot topic.
The other thing that's not in the patch.
The other thing that's not in the patch. How about Freddie changes?
I think we have something for that.
God.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Thank you, Vance, for sure.
Yeah, that's okay. Actually, I think we have something else for this.
Do we? Ah.
Yeah. I mean, that explains it. No, wait, no, that's wrong. Okay, no, take that down. That's not right. Okay. So what's happening with Freddie is we're sticking with it's still the next killer to get revisited. I'm not sure if we ever explicitly said it was going to be in this patch.
No,
but it's very understandable considering the pattern that we've had so far. Freddie is the next one to get one of these reworks. I'm super excited about it.
Does that mean any other killer will not receive any other changes in the meantime?
Oh, we can't rule out small tweaks here and there, but no one's getting one of these big patches until Freddie.
So yeah, it's understandable that people thought it was coming for mid-chapter.
Yeah.
It was never announced to be, and but yeah, since we had reworks like Trapper, Hag, Wraith, so it felt like it was going to be one at every single patch.
Yeah.
It is not the case, sadly. But yeah, this is the reason why Freddie was not included in the mid-chapter patch.
I would love it if it were, but it's not.
Yes. What we said was the next in line for a rework.
Yeah.
All right. That was a question we had on the forums. I know Jeff brought a little image for it. This was a question we had in a forum. A lot of quality of life changes.
Yeah. Well, basically the question was asking if we were ever planning on putting add-ons in the HUD somewhere while you're in-game. And so for people who are not on the PTB or cannot be on the PTB, I grabbed the screenshot so you can see. Now you can go in-game and never wonder which add-ons you have. They will be shown in the HUD.
Yes, that's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Other changes for quality of life. There was also a big color change for the flashlights.
That's right.
line.
Oh, yes.
I don't think we
didn't bring
brought
that,
any
though.
flashlight footage.
We didn't bring the footage, but it changed a lot. So
Did.
It did.
It's out there online if you guys want. If you're curious about this, there were big changes to the special effects for flashlights, not only for the flashlight beam, but for the blind effect itself. These don't change how you get blinded or how long you get blinded for or anything like that. It's just that now the beam is going to provide a lot more feedback about where you are in the process of blinding a killer. And the blind effect on the killer or survivor, if you drop a firecracker, is going to be different. It's not going to burn your eyes out if you're sitting in a dark room anymore. In fact, it's kind of dark and spooky. So check it out.
yes. All right. Thank you for this. So there was a lot of question about why did we change NOED and botany knowledge? So why were there changes to the other tiers?
Yeah, Jeff.
He's like, what did
I'm
I
talking
do?
about the values and what's wrong in the patch notes or in the game versus the patch notes.
That's fair. I believe there was an issue.
McLean will explain why they were changed,
Yeah.
but I'm only going to say that in the patch notes, you'll find the correct values. On the PTB right now, there's a bug where you're seeing the wrong values, so it's still showing NOED as being 6%, but it is not. The right value for Tier 3 NOED is 4%. Same goes for botany knowledge. The values that you see on the PTB, on the tooltip description, is not the right one. The right ones are in the patch notes.
Yeah.
So why did we change them?
Well, so the actual changes that we made to hex no one escapes death were just to even out the differences between the levels. Since the defining feature of that perk, I think everyone agrees, is the one-shot mechanic. It makes sense to just put that on all the levels and then find something else to increase in power as the perk increases in level. We went through a lot of different iterations, and unfortunately some incorrect values got put into the descriptions of the perk. So it says 6%, which would be like for the top rank. We didn't want to increase the power of NOED in any way. We kind of wanted just to leave it alone for now. So it accidentally got a description of 6% extra speed at the top end, which is wrong. In the game and in the patch notes, it says 4%. Or sorry, in the game's like files, it actually does 4%, but the description says 6. So anyway, sorry about that. It'll all be cleared up soon. And I think botany knowledge. In fact,
Yeah,
I think we've got some slides for this. There we
Yes.
go. Awesome. Botany knowledge also has an incorrect description. These are the new numbers. 11, 22, and 33% extra healing. And that is a buff for botany knowledge. So everyone get out there and heal.
Well, which is also a good segue for the next question.
Yeah.
Healing changes. So healing and recovery changes,
Yeah.
which is under slugging changes.
Slugging.
Basically, we were like, yeah, we're looking into, nerfing self-care. But at the end, we didn't touch self-care. We touched the entire healing.
Yep.
So what were the thought behind that?
Well, let's bring up the numbers, and I'll talk about it while we do that. All right. So what we ended up doing was a adjustment of a bunch of numbers in the game. The point was to try to extend matches a bit by having survivors do things other than generators, because there is a general, I'll go so far as to say a general consensus
Yes.
that matches can go too fast when survivors are laser focused on their objectives. They're not doing anything wrong by doing the generators. It's what's expected of them. So still there's this feeling that they can go too fast, not enough interesting things can happen in a game. So in order to get games to last longer without just extending generator time, because I don't think many people would like that, we're looking at different ways, quick ways, because there's really cool, exciting stuff coming in the future. But in the meantime, what can we do to extend the length of a game in an organic fashion without going to generators? And one of the things we looked at was having killers be able to apply more pressure on survivors by making healing take longer. So a killer can, through regular gameplay, hit survivors, and it's going to take them more time to recover through healing than it did before. So this is the general idea. We just want killers to be able to gain more time by hitting people. And when we do that, there's a lot of other numbers that are associated with it that are going to need to be adjusted. We took a hard look at all the various things that are associated with this and said, how should they be changed to reflect this? The top one was mangled. We don't want healing time to be able to get multiplied out into infinity with all kinds of stacking effects. So we took mangled down a little bit. It also comes out to some nice even numbers, 16 to 20 seconds, very satisfying. Things like the medkits and their add-ons, we went in and adjusted the number of charges. So don't worry, your brown medkit can still heal you. It's been adjusted to 16 charges.
It just takes longer.
It just takes longer,
Okay.
exactly.
A lot of people saw the recover change,
Yeah.
the 85% to 95,
Yeah.
as a nerf to the slugging technique. Honestly, so I was seeing it that way too until I get a lot of explanation there. So what changed, like in the total time does it take from someone that is down to someone that is up?
So before these changes, if I remember correctly, and I should have brought these numbers with me, so you're going to have to bear with me, it would take about 25 and a bit seconds to recover from 0 to 85%.
Yes.
Now, after this patch, it will take about 30 and a bit seconds to get from 0 to 95.
Okay. So 30 seconds, and then the 5% that's left is like
0.8 seconds.
Okay, so 31 seconds, give or take, for a full recovery and save.
Yeah.
And then before it was 25 seconds plus give or take
About
2 seconds.
1.8.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is longer now than it was before.
Yeah, all in all, it'll still take longer from the point that you down someone for them to get back up. Is slugging being nerfed? I wouldn't say so. Maybe overall, if you consider that it is going to be a bit easier to get somebody off the ground.
But you're going to have to wait
but
longer,
they have to wait
so
longer.
Killers have a longer time to do other things.
Exactly.
Okay.
We're really trying to encourage some more dynamic play with this. We do like the bold going in to get the guy on the ground, but there's still a lot of value in knocking someone down. You're still going to get a good 30 seconds at least time out of that where they're not doing anything useful and other people are going to be wasting time trying to get to them.
Awesome. Well, thanks for clarifying all this for us.
You're welcome.
All right. Oh, lots of feedback on the spirit sounds.
Yeah.
Where?
Where?
So there's been some changes to this on the PTB.
Yes. So what happened right there?
The PTB version still has bugs in it, by the way, because it's a PTB.
Yeah.
The patch notes mentioned a lot of things that we want to do, but are not actually on the PTB.
Most of those things had been done and had been done past the point that the things that are going to be in the PTB were needed to be done.
Yeah, so it didn't make it on,
Yeah.
but we still mentioned it,
Yeah.
which is, you know.
So for example, the sound she makes right now when she's on Spirit World is still directional on PTB,
Yes,
and
on
it's
the
not
PTB it
supposed
is.
to be at the end, right?
No, it is
Okay.
not. Right now, on the builds that we have internally, the spirit is wonderful. She's lovely. I love her. But no, you don't. The sound is non-directional anymore, so you can't. I was testing this morning actually, and it was disorienting because you just heard something, but you didn't know where she was. It's great. It's great, and there are more changes coming to that. I don't know if I can say this, but I'm going to say it. The footsteps while she's phase walking, survivors will no longer hear her footsteps, because right now, if she's phase walking and we remove the sound of the I call it the haunting sound, survivors could hear her footsteps.
Okay.
But now footsteps are completely silent, which adds to this layer of you don't know where she is.
Because she's even more stealthier, actually.
Yes.
So she's stealthier than
Yes.
she was before.
Yes.
Awesome.
And can we mention the thing that we mentioned yesterday, the purple? Can we talk about
Yeah,
that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And to top it all off, for you freaks out there who want to be completely silent, we've...
Freaks out there.
I mean, baseline spirit is pretty cool, you know? But
Stealth freaks.
for the ones that want to take it to the next level, the Prayer Beads Bracelet, the very rare add-on, has been reworked to not only diminish the sound of the haunting, but to completely remove it. So there will be no sound in terror radius or out terror radius. There's just zero. You don't hear anything.
So you don't know when she's in the Spirit World. All right.
That's hot.
It's it is.
That's going to be crazy. All right, next question about the Chaser emblem, because we had a lot of feedback on the Chaser emblem.
I've been waiting for this one.
Yeah, you've been
Ready.
waiting for this one. Jeff made us a very, very beautiful
Don't judge my art skills.
schematic of how it goes. So, Chaser emblem around the hook. So, what we understand from the patch note right now is that, wait, as a killer, I'm going to get punished for being around the hook now.
Yeah.
What is it with that?
It's not actually the case. You won't actually be punished. There are some conditions that weren't mentioned in the patch notes. So as you can see over here, this is on a 16-meter proximity threshold.
Yes.
So if you are closer to the hook within 8 meters of it, the penalty is very, very big. And if you're between 8 and 16 meters, it's less important, but there's still a penalty. And then there's also the fact that, a lot of people were saying, well, what happens if people, if the survivors are hook diving and they're, just staying around the hook?
So basically, people thought they were going to be punished for something they had no control over.
Yes, but that's not the case. If another survivor is within 16 meters of the hook and you are as well, there is no penalty applied.
Okay.
And this is also the case for the last survivor who's alive. Like, everyone else is dead and you hook the last one. He's just struggling, you will not get a penalty for that.
So if you're nodding in front of the hook, or if you're placing a trap and running into it just for fun, you're good. You're not getting punished for being.
Are you watching me play?
I've seen a lot of people. It actually makes the survivor life very funny. I like when killers do that.
Yeah.
Anyways. On this, I think we had
the 16 meter
range image. So this is beautiful.
Over here, this is from I don't know, half an hour ago. As you can see, there's a Dwight near the hook on the left, and on the right of the picture, you see the spirit, and that's the distance that you have to be to not get a penalty at all. Like, if we're talking about the limit of 16 meters, this is what 16 meters looks like.
Cool.
And then in the next picture, you can see that. Right. So let's ignore the spirit on the right side. Let's just think of the killer and the survivor as being within the 16 meters. You're fine. This is what I mean. Like, if you're around the hook and another survivor is there as well, you will not get a penalty at all.
Gucci.
Nice.
Okay. So, for example, because I think we still need some examples right there. So I hook someone as killer, and survivor is hiding behind the wall. And while I'm going away, I see him. And obviously, I'm like, hey, I'm not going to give it for free. So I start chasing him around the hook. Am I penalized?
Nope.
So you're not? Okay.
No. This is, like, the condition is really, so there's a hook, and then are you within 16 meters? Yes. Is a survivor within 16 meters? Yes. Then you're not penalized.
Okay.
That's how it is.
If I go outside the 16-meter range, and there was no survivor around, and then I see someone run in from behind and turn around and go chase that person, then do I get penalized?
Well, that depends. How does the movement work?
I don't know. Do you want me to draw you an image? Everybody was outside of the 16 range?
Yeah.
Everybody's going back in?
Yeah.
Am I getting penalized as killer?
As soon as you both get within the 16 meters of the hook, there's no penalty.
Okay.
The penalty really only applies if you are alone within 16 meters of the hook.
Okay. Alone within
Yes.
16 meters.
There is a good question in chat, which is whether the killer will be notified that this is happening.
A good question.
So in the game right now, there are no notifications for your emblems during the match. What there is, which is pretty recent, I think it was just last patch, we added entries in the emblem descriptions when you mouse over them that tell you a breakdown of how you gained and lost points. And there ought to be an entry that'll say something along the lines of, you lost this many points because you were sitting near a hook while there were no other survivors around.
Yeah. Okay.
So you'll know after the game if it penalized you for camping, essentially.
Okay. So for strategies for people who are putting on Insidious, for example, and they want to stand right next. Well,
unfortunately, that means you're not a very good chaser. So
you're
chaser
putting your
is going to be
so you're
penalized.
putting your strategy on something else.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Thank you for this. Let's go to the next one. Sabo and hook count.
Yes.
So Sabo's a big thing.
Yeah,
Is
well, it hasn't been. I think lately it's been pretty niche.
Yep.
Part of the plan that we were talking about earlier was getting survivors to do more of the other things in the game. Sabotage is a tricky one because it can very easily go overboard, and nobody likes the games where there's absolutely no hooks and everybody dies on the ground.
I mean, there was a reason for the introduction of the hook respawn.
Yeah.
Because full Sabo squad, and
Yeah.
then when you were getting caught, it was just slugging. So it was getting a gameplay was not really interesting for both sides. So
Exactly.
how are we going to make this interesting with the new Sabo?
Right. Well, Sabotage isn't changing dramatically. We're just sort of pushing people a little bit in the direction of doing it more. There are a couple of ways that we're doing that. One of them was revisiting some old mechanics that probably didn't need to exist anymore. On toolboxes, there is a mechanic that makes it burn more charge if you use the toolbox for Sabotage compared to Repair. And that made a lot of sense when Sabotage was permanent. When we're looking at it now and we say, well, Sabotage is temporary, we probably don't need such harsh restrictions on those toolboxes. So we said, all right, let's tear that out. Let's have people, if you want to sabotage and you're serious about it, put a toolbox on, and now you can do it pretty efficiently. On the other hand, we still don't want Sabotage to take over the game. It's still a risky strategy. You have to spend a lot of time doing it. You can't sabotage absolutely everything. The sabotage is temporary. Your position is revealed when you break a hook.
Sorry.
It's all right. Please don't die.
Things under control.
So, and then to follow up on that, we took a look at the perk Saboteur, which previously gave you extra use out of your toolboxes. Now you're not going to need that anymore. So we ripped that piece of text right out, and we thought, what can we put as a nice little boost for people who want to sabotage? So we put in a little bit of extra sabotage time. Back in the day, originally when the game came out, sabotaged items remained sabotaged the whole game. Then we came in later and added the fact that hooks will regenerate after 3 minutes. So the new Saboteur perk will increase the amount of time that something stays sabotaged for. Now I think the first iteration in the PTB had an extra 60 seconds.
Something like that.
We toned it down to 30 in the most recent. So I'm not sure. I think the patch notes that were put up still say 60, but when it comes out, most likely it'll be the version that has 30 seconds on it.
I can tell you that in a second.
Well, okay.
We can go over maybe.
Well, let's continue
yeah.
while we're at it. So the other issue is that at the same time, we finally got some tools, which you and Matt Walker were working on, to control.
Not working on the tools, just we're working with the tools. Yes,
fair enough. To better control the density of hooks on a map. Do you want to tell us some stuff about that?
I can try. I mean,
you can do it, Jeff.
I can try. I can do it. So basically, if you go and play on the live servers, we actually looked at the data yesterday, and we got some numbers. And I'll just take the worst one because it's so bad.
Yeah.
But basically, the maps on live have a set or one specific number of hooks that they have to spawn. So, for instance, on I think it was Grim Banshee or the Pale Rose, there were 21 hooks.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's
21
a lot.
hooks. Yeah, so when you have two survivors facing each other on a hook, just kind of chilling there, this is the reason why we asked for this tool, so that we can have a hook count that is not, terrible for the killer, but that isn't terrible for the survivor either.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we came in, and we're actually still tweaking the numbers. So what you see on the PTB might change, but it looks to me, and probably to others as well, that it's a better number for the health of the game. As far as the sabotage changes go, maybe it needs a bit more hooks, but I think it's going in the right direction.
So there was a question about the interaction between Sabo and Hangman's Trick.
Yep.
So basically that's a question.
I can answer that.
Yes.
So Hangman's Trick, the way that it works is it reduces the base amount, essentially. It reduces it from 3 minutes to 10 seconds. And then Sabotage is added afterwards. So if I have Saboteur and you have Hangman's Trick and I break your hook, it'll stay broken for 40 seconds.
Okay. Well, that's pretty short.
It is pretty short.
All right.
One of the reasons we felt comfortable pushing Sabotage more than we have in the past is that we believe there are a lot of tools for killers to fight that kind of strategy between Franklin's Demise and Hangman's Trick and Iron Grasp and Agitation. I don't think that Sabo squads will be able to completely take over the game. Every once in a while, if people aren't prepared, a well-timed Sabo squad might be able to come in and steal the game. And we're okay with weird things like that happening now and then. What we don't want is for that to become the meta, what you see every game, and I really, at this point, don't believe that will happen.
All right. I think also that with the change with the hooks, actually, having a better distribution means that killer needs to choose where he's going to go.
Yes.
So it's kind of like more relevant to use Sabo in this case.
The way I compare it, or what I compare it to is pallets. Pallets are a resource. You don't go around and just throw them down. You have to like think about it when you use them. Don't use the God palette in the first minute of the game, please. God palette is the shack palette, by the way. So hooks in this case with this change is exactly that. It's a resource that the killer has to think about. Like if I go and use this hook in that corner, well, if I slug or down someone in that corner, I can't hook them in there anymore. So I have to like try to strategize which hooks do I want to keep and which ones do I not want to keep.
All right. We're not going to talk about the dreaded Coldwind farm.
Oh yeah.
House. Anyways,
we don't talk about the dark
we
days.
don't talk about this. All right, let's go over vaults because there was changes to the vaults, the survivor vaults, and let's forget about the very slow vault and talk more about the medium and fast vault.
Sure.
Or medium vault, also called
What?
the slow vault of death.
The slow vault of death. So this is I find one of the confusing features of Dead by Daylight for a new player.
Yes.
You think, here's a window, I'm going to jump over it. Only in Dead by Daylight, you can do so in 3 different ways, which is even a departure from the other weird stuff we have, which you can do fast or slow depending on whether you're holding
Vacuum.
your run key, right? Shift for most of us on PC. On a window, you can go over it slowly and quietly, or quickly and loudly, or you can run at it like a maniac and fly through it.
Like a maniac.
So I think the community tends to refer to these as slow, medium, and fast vaults, except when they were going for a fast vault and didn't get it, in which case they always call it a slow vault, even if that's not what it is, but it's sure what it feels like. So I'm actually going to call the fastest vault a running vault. I believe in the PTB, you'll see that there is a new, this is something I'm really excited about, even though it's a super minor change, is that there's a new prompt that appears. If you're going to hit the button and get a running vault, it will tell you. So if you've got really quick eyes, you're really paying attention, and you want to know how to time your vaults, you can actually watch for the change in the prompt. And if it says, run vault, you can press your button and be confident
Very quick.
that you're going to, I know,
Very
it's
quick.
extremely quick.
Split second.
Well, if you're running at it from an angle and you're trying to do a maneuver, it's very quick. If you're running at it straight, then you'll see it and it won't be a problem.
I think we have videos to show a little bit what we're going on about slow vault, fast vaults.
This is not from the PTB. This is from our work in progress. We can probably just let this run for a while if you want. I'll explain what we did for vaults and why. Previously, we had a window vault mechanic, or rather a mechanic to determine whether you'd get the run vault, which was based on quite a large number of factors. And it was making it very difficult to get clear rules for level design, because we are getting very serious about level design reworks these days. And we need some metrics that we can rely on. For example, we need metrics like if there is debris within 1.5 meters of a window, you should not be able to window vault it.
So wait, so this is right
vault.
now what you guys are, oh, this is the Jeff vault.
This is the infamous Jeff vault.
let's please tell everyone that we're not going back to vacuum vaults right now
We're
because
not.
the chat is going a little bit crazy.
You-
This is called the
Jeff Vault.
This
Jeff
is the
vault.
Jeff vault. This is a wonderful clip that really helped us work on the vault, because this is something we never want to see happen. This crazy sliding run vault.
Thank you.
This should
So
ne-
this is exactly what I was going
Yeah.
to. We are not going to do this.
Yeah.
This was denied. Thank you, Jeff.
This is what we did not want.
Yeah.
So let's have the other video maybe
Yeah.
while we're talking about. There you go.
So on the PTB, this is using the mechanics that are in the PTB, even though I'm using a debug map here. So please, I apologize for the effect on one's eyes that this might have. This is me actually running through a bunch of tiles with the current mechanics, just to make sure that running vaults were possible. On there was a car crusher before. This is the 4 lanes. We're probably going to keep tweaking the values, but I just wanted to double check. I wanted to make sure that all these tiles were still fast vaultable. I'm going to back up a little bit about why we got into this. So we needed to get a simpler version that we could really accurately predict and build levels properly from. So that involved reducing the number of variables involved and getting a system that was simpler and easier to work with, which is what we came up with. That's in the PTB right now. The numbers that we're using to determine whether you can or can't running vault are still being tweaked.
Okay.
So this is with what's on the PTB right now. Some players are coming and telling me that they couldn't fast vault on the car crusher here, so I wanted to double check that you could. They were telling me that you couldn't do it very well on the shack or on the 4 lanes, so I tested, and it's possible. However, just because it's possible doesn't necessarily mean it's good. Yeah, as you'll see, I have to do a lot of dramatic turns here. You lose a lot of ground against a killer who's trying to cut you off to the window. So we are probably going to slightly tweak the numbers here and make it a little bit easier to get. The idea is not to ruin play on these tiles. We want it so that a player who's very good, has good timing, and knows which direction to run these can still get their fast vaults. It's only specific tiles, like I have another video. I believe it's the window at the end of the suffocation pit. This is a prime example of a window that we don't want to be fast vaulted from the outside.
So one side you won't be able to fast vault, and the other side, if you take it straight, you will be.
That's right. So you could fast vault out of this, but you wouldn't be able to fast vault into it. So these debris here are stopping me from fast vaulting.
So never going to have a fast vault on this one.
Yeah.
On that side.
That's right.
All right. So that would apply also to, for example, the shoot and the game and the map
yes.
game. Yeah. So
exactly.
so little area like this, the ironworks window.
That's right.
Also
to get into the ironworks.
So windows will become fast vaultable from one side and then not from the other. So that's very interesting.
Not every window, just specific windows. Like we're not trying. There's a lot of okay. Let's put it this way. For most windows in the game, we're not looking to change how they work. We're really looking for specific windows. We want to be able to set up specific scenarios. So we do want your feedback about this, about how these tiles feel to play after the change. You can tell us how it feels in the PTB, although the consensus so far has been that it's too restrictive, and we've been listening and still tweaking values with that. And it's something we're going to keep an eye on in the future.
All right. And then after some feedback, so let's go back to Huntress hatchets. So the reason why we're talking about Huntress hatchets today, even if it's been reverted, is I wanted to go back on why we did the change and why did we revert it. And what was the idea behind it, and what did it show us in a larger scale? So, hey guys, what's up with the Huntress?
Jeff, I think this started with you.
He's looking at the wall like, what?
Oh,
Talk to me?
okay, sure. Yeah, actually, hi, I'm the culprit. See, I have this tendency that I want to always help everyone and make the game better and improve it to the point where everyone's happy and you never get a toxic game.
Oh boy, really I have bad news for you.
Ergo se say. So the hatchet thing, it started with me browsing the forums, and I compile these things sometimes where, oh, I see 1 report, oh, I see 2 reports, oh, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. And so with the hatchets, what I did see often is that you get like these weird hits where you question, the Huntress. You're like, well, how did you hit me?
I was hidden behind this. Why did you hit my
I was behind a tree. I was behind a rock. Behind a car. Well, car not applicable anymore really because we fixed them. But behind a tree. So then I bugged it, and it was sent to the devs, the programmers, and they looked into it and they did a fix.
Yep.
And you can probably...
I'll talk a little bit about this fix that happened. So we can bring up, I think it's, the before hitbox of the hatchet. So this, we're revealing some internal secrets today. This is what the hatchet hitbox used to look like and looks like now. What you'll see in the very middle, there's a small red sphere. That's what collides with the environment.
So the red sphere in the middle,
right? Yeah. So that's what hits walls. The sphere on the outside, that's what hits survivors. So
why is it so large? So can you?
There are reasons why it's so large. We're gonna get to it. Now there are great performance advantages for having a sphere compared to other things. It's much simpler, easier to calculate, blah blah blah. But in general, this was working, mostly. It led to some weird hits in certain circumstances.
I'm sorry, but Huntress throws hand grenades.
Pretty much. So the reason why survivors were getting hit in really weird ways is the spherical shape, such that you could easily hit with all that space to either side of the hatchet because it's a sphere. So when it came time to fix this bug, we said, okay, this was nice and simple and it mostly worked, but it's really causing these problems, which we're getting all these reports about. So let's go ahead and get a realistic hitbox and give it a shot.
Yes.
There we go. So we changed it to this.
So that was the hitbox that got so much feedback when we changed it.
Yeah.
So I don't see anymore the little red thing. Is it still there? Or?
No, that's just because of the way I took the screenshot.
Okay, okay.
In fact, that's kind of an interesting point. When we put this out, I started getting feedback from players that they were able to do trick shots with the hatchet through all kinds of things, like a small hole, put it through. And I was asking myself if I was crazy because you could always do that. I think many people didn't try because they assumed that the hitbox was so big. They didn't realize there's a difference between the zone that it can hit survivors and the zone that it hits environment.
So there's the large round hitbox, or the yellow hitbox right here, is the one for hitting survivors.
Yep.
And then the small one that was in the middle was the one for hitting environment.
Yep.
So this is where the problem begins.
This is where the problem begins. And of course, the obvious solution, which is to use the same collision for both, resulted essentially in your hatchet being destroyed by environment everywhere you go. So if you always wanted to have your hatchet destroyed by a tree a foot to the side of it, you would have liked this. Otherwise, you would not have enjoyed this at all. So what we ended up doing is we reverted this change because we were getting a lot of feedback from Huntress players. They were not having fun throwing hatchets anymore. We listened, put it back to the sphere. And, but that's not the end of the story, because this is still a real problem that we take seriously. Now, as many people in the chat have already figured out, congratulations, the problem has more to do with the survivor hitboxes and how they interact with the hatchet. We have a picture for this. So here's, for those of you who are curious, here it is. Here is the survivor hitbox. And I'll tell a little story about why it is the way it is. This hitbox was concocted for the lunge attack, right? For your melee attack, because this essentially what we're checking in Dead by Daylight is basically whether you were close enough.
Yes.
Because for those of you who have played peer-to-peer melee combat games like Dark Souls, you'll often find that it's trying to get the exact position of your weapon and the exact position of your opponent. And in a networked environment, it never works out. That's why you'll be facing your opponent in Dark Souls, and you'll be swinging at him, and then all of a sudden, he's behind you, backstabbing you. And you're like, well, what the heck? But it looked fine on his end. So in Dead by Daylight, we're not trying to be quite so precise. There's a zone in front of the killer, and there's a zone for the survivor.
Sorry.
Running sausages. Nice. Okay, so there's a zone in front of the killer, there's a zone in front of the survivor. If you're able to overlap your zones, the game will say that you get a hit, and then we're going to move some people around to try to get as good looking a hit as we can. So this zone works pretty well for that.
So
it doesn't work quite so well when you're throwing a hatchet at it. I think we've got some video for this, actually. So it was working better with the sphere because the sphere makes up for some of the problems that the capsule gives us. As you can see, Dwight's head, is overlapping, so he's coming out of the capsule. But it doesn't really matter because your hatchet hitbox is big enough that if you hit his head, I missed. You're still gonna you're still gonna hit. On the other hand, there are still some unfair feeling hits. So so we really dug into this and we said we know essentially what needs to be done. Survivor hitboxes for projectiles need to be adjusted. I don't have a timeline for that, but it's something we would really like to do. We don't want to dramatically change the way that the Huntress feels, but we would like to get hits to feel as fair as we can.
Okay. So, for example, the capsule explains a little bit while, like when you're healing someone.
Yes.
And it's still over your head.
Yes.
But your head you don't see your head as that high, but you still receive the hatchet over your head, and then you get hit.
It's like the capsule doesn't adapt to, your character's stance.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you feel as a killer that you hit someone, but obviously you didn't hit as arm.
His arm.
That
you can
it's
also show the other
around.
video.
Oh yeah, sure.
That shows, with the updated hatchets, that you couldn't hit the arm. Oh, there you go. This is my video with my beautiful Claudette.
Oh yeah.
So as you can see, I'm throwing the hatchet. This is the updated hatchet collision, and it
So
really
that was
shows
the square, the rectangle
yeah,
one.
and it really shows this issue that McLean was highlighting in his previous video, where the sphere collision makes up for that area that's not covered by the survivor's capsule collision.
Yeah. So with the versions that we've put back, if your hatchet goes through the arm, the hitbox is going to be overlapping the capsule to the side, and you'll get your hit. This isn't perfect, so there's still stuff to do here.
So there's a good question here. So crouching doesn't work against Huntress?
Crouching works. It has always worked. So here's the deal. When you crouch, you have a different hitbox. It shrinks your hitbox. However, things like healing or action or repairing a generator, things that cause your character to look smaller, currently do not. That is also on the wish list. Because making a new collision detection for projectiles, that's a big deal. Adding something to shrink capsules when you're doing certain actions is more reasonable. So we would probably see that as a first step to fixing unfair-looking hits, so that you wouldn't get hit if you're crouched over healing, you wouldn't get hit in the air a foot above your head. Things like that would probably come first.
So, all right. Well, that was everything for questions for us today. I hope that you guys, thank you for showing up to the live stream. I hope that you guys had good answers to the PTB questions. There was a lot of them. Thank you to Jeff for showing up. I know it was very stressful for you. You did awesome. Guys, can we have some love for Jeff in the chat? Come on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So on this, I don't think I have like a word of the day or any. Oh, there you go.
Play the spirit.
Oh.
And even more so when the mid-chapter comes out. It's going to be great, I'm telling you. Trust me.
Well, I do have an idea. Every day try to do something that you're not comfortable.
Oh, shit.
Again, thank you so much to the mods and to François and Bjorn for helping us. We will see you next week for a panel, a live panel. Thank you for showing up, and have a good week. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye, guys.